This next one comes from Vermont. This is little Alyssa.
Vermont?
Yeah.
Does Vermont actually have an internet radio connection? You got to be kidding me.
They must have.
They got broadband up there, huh? All right.
This comes from...
Who we got? What's the name?
It says little Alyssa. Little Alyssa.
Ooh, I bet she's probably a cutie.
And she has some good things to say.
Well,
so here
who we got? What's Alyssa got to say?
Told you I'd find one. Okay. You are so much better than Tommy Fierro. You need to take over the main show yourself.
Wow. Man.
Somebody out there liked you, Kenny.
Yeah, that's Alyssa, huh, in Vermont. I told you the people in Vermont were good people. Had some good educated people. Had northern education. A lot like the people in Maine.
Well, let's see. What about the people in Maine?
Well, there's good people up there, too.
Yeah, well, our boss is
those
there.
people love the king up in the deep northeast. That's why they had me up there for that legend show a few years ago up there in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
Very rare does a big deal from the south like me normally go to the north. Normally, Cincinnati's about the cutoff line.
Oh.
And I normally won't go any further north than Cincinnati, but they persuaded me to come, and Ox Baker, who's a big deal in the northeast, asked me if I would come up there to the Wolfie Sanderson Memorial. And Wolfie Sanderson, one of the big deals in the Northeast up there in the Nashua, New Hampshire area, I finally agreed to come, and they love the king up there. They, you get a little southern hospitality shown their way up there, and hell, I ran that whole thing there. They had Tito Santana there, and oh, good Lord, almost so many names, it's hard to name them all. They had Animal from the Road Warriors. They had Bobby Heenan there. They had, Lord, who am I thinking of here? The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Coco Beware, just recently into the Hall of Fame. Greg the Hammer Valentine. I mentioned Tito Santana earlier. A lot of the big name greats, and they had the king running the whole show up there. They were all coming to me for advice, which was very flattering, very humbling for the king. I'm not one to blow my own horn. I'm not one to go around and brag and everything, but when all those greats are coming to me wanting to know how I operate and how business flows my way and how I've done so much just right out of Louisville, Kentucky, and never really had to leave this territory, I felt tremendously honored to help all those great legends in any way that I could.
Well, unfortunately, the rest of the comments that I'm looking at here, they're not blowing your horn in a not so pretty way here.
Not so many of the Vermont letters got through, huh?
Well,
go ahead.
Now, these come from the Who's Slamming Who. These are from the main show. These are your comments that last time I looked, I saw here. First one goes, this was the first time and the last time I listened to Kenny Bolin. I don't really mind.
What a lie that is.
I don't really mind about what he has to say or how he says it. It's just he's not as entertaining as Cornette. Just my opinion.
Oh.
That come from RC.
Yeah, now, who's that written from? JC probably who wrote that. It sounds like something Jim Cornette would write.
It says
Bolin
RC.
Not as entertaining as Cornette.
Well,
all Cornette does get on there and whine, complain, and bitch about how he got screwed over while he was in the WWE. That's all you ever hear out of Jimmy, and people sick of hearing it. And that's a big lie and a big laugh right there that I'm not as entertaining as Jimmy. That's why my television show has gone to the #1 rated TV show. After I took over, they got Jimmy Cornette out, put me in. That's when the show took off and became a #1 rated television show.
Okay. The next one here.
Living proof.
He says, this comes from Slicky Tricky Damon.
Slicky Tricky Damon, okay.
He says, I'm betting the real stooge is Kenny Bolin himself. So,
good Lord. Is that all he says, or does he back that up with something?
That's all he said right there.
The real stooge is Kenny Bolin.
That's what they're saying.
Like I'm on there doing everything that I do every week and pumping information into Vince McMahon. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, if you want to find out, if they want to find out, they can go see who you picked as the stooge.
Well, we both say the name, Callie. You have to admit, Tommy Fierro says the name before I do.
Yeah, you're right. He
does.
He does.
He said the name before I do, so he figured it out. He knew who it was, because when he said the name, that's when I said, you're right, Tommy Fierro. That's who it is. So now we've really given you some information to let you know that even Tommy Fierro figures out who the Stooge is. Slicky Dicky Tricky is a retard. He doesn't even deserve one of my free pictures or free DVDs when I go out and help the special kids of America. That's how far gone and how sick this individual is to accuse me to be the Stooge. I'll help the youth of America. I'll help the little kids, but if he's one of them, mark him off the list because he's too far gone and can't be helped.
Okay.
I'd be slapped for saying such a thing.
Now, don't blame me for these comments, okay? I'm just reading them as they are. They're documented on the Who's Slamming Who.
You're just the messenger. Well,
That's
the messenger's been fired a few times around.
Well, don't shoot her.
Been in, but go ahead. Let's see what you got.
Don't shoot the messenger. This one comes from Jason. Seriously, why does this fat, ignorant loser have a place on this site who listens to this guy? He is a disgrace to humanity as a whole.
He called me fat and ignorant?
And a disgrace to humanity as a whole.
And a disgrace to humanity.
Yes.
Well, number one, I think most women will agree I'm not fat. I'm just a big-boned, healthy individual. I'm not a bone rack. I'm not some punk that looks like he wears a wife beater and works at a gas station in his local hick town. I'm a man. I heard it out of Hawk's mouth himself. Hawk did an interview with me once, letting some people know they better not mess with me. And he says, anybody that doesn't weigh over the 275-pound mark, I don't even consider them a man. So if you're under 275, better hold your tongue. Because you ain't a man. Callie, you don't weigh 275, do you?
I'm doing good to be a $105.
I know Sicko down there at your radio station. I know he don't weigh no 275. No, you gotta have some bulk on you to be called a man, and I don't take too kindly to this punk calling me all those horrible names, and he doesn't even know anything about me. He better reevaluate his own self. What he better do.
Well, this next one, it sounds pretty good. So let's read that one. This one comes from Perry. Now, some people might disagree with this comment, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. Bolin is a genius. Not much he can't. So in the wrestling business, I see his segment blew out the server. Seems Bolin may be the ratings machine he says he is. I am a fan of Bolin for life.
Well, there you go. Finally, and what was his name?
Perry.
Well, Perry is obviously one of the intelligent people out there, because you're exactly right. We haven't even brought this up yet. We blew out, let me rephrase that. Me blew out the main server at Who's Slamming Who. They couldn't handle all the calls that were coming in there, trying to download my segment on the bowling alley and the main show this week. They were shut down for what, 24, 36 hours?
Yeah.
And I've heard, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this here. We'll go ahead and put the word out now. I've heard that show has become so popular now, and there's so many requests trying to get into that show, trying to download my segment and my main segments when I'm on, that they're actually have spent all the money they can spend trying to run those servers, and that they actually might have to start charging a small nominal fee just so they can afford to handle all the bandwidth and all the calls that are coming in. And I've heard rumors that it could be anywhere between $5 and $9 a month. I've heard various estimates as to what it would take in order to be able to afford to keep the servers and the internet bandwidth running to be able to handle that show. So I guess what they're going to have to do is say, hey, do you guys want to spend $5 a month to have access to all these 30 great wrestlers that are on here, and to be able to hear your dose of Kenny Bolin every week, and Jim Cornette if he comes back, and Jerry Jarrett if he comes back, and the Iron Sheik, and Lanny Poffo, and Bill Behrens, and all I don't mean to leave any names out, but the main name we need to remember is, do you want to lose your Kenny Bolin? Love me, hate me, agree with me, disagree with me. You all are obviously learning something when you tune in and listen to my segments. Be they an hour radio show, a 20-minute segment, a 7-minute segment, 2.5, 3.5 hours on Wildlife Radio. You're all learning something. I think we need to admit that. And some of you grasp it a little better than others, and some of you are like that little girl in Vermont who realized that greatness when she hears